super important. Training employees to work alongside AI systems and partnering with AI experts. Super, super, super important. Whether it's in recruiting, marketing, business development, sales, it doesn't matter. You have to train your employees to work alongside AI. And I'm actually reading some of the comments. Somebody said, I also know a lot of people who worry about AI replacing jobs. Now, although that might necessarily be true because my systems have cut, 70% of recruiting costs, some of those costs have been allocated to, unnecessary labor costs, but AI is not going to replace people, but people who know how to utilize AI is going to replace other people. Simple. And these businesses, they're all looking for efficiency and they want to keep the human factor in, and that's super important. But we have the beauty of living in the United States is we have the freedom still to search the web and find all of this information, and now we just have an extra resource that allows us to do it even more efficiently. And just to touch on it, I know that we went over a little bit, but you're by yourself right now, and you did ask us to share a story. And if my mom's watching, hi mom, by the way, she can share these screenshots with you from 2019. But I had the honor of being part of a lot of beta versions of language learning models, ChatGPT being one of them. I started playing around with language learning models in late 2019. Back in 2019, little Miss Flo was making $60,000 a year, hating her life, working 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., recruiting for a firm that just did not value her. And I started playing with ChatGPT and a couple other language learning models. And I started getting some news of a, respiratory virus that was spreading overseas. So I started helping it. I asked it to help me assess, what was the probability and the likelihood of it spreading, how quickly could we determine the effects that it would have, on the U.S. market, the economy, on different, micro, macro levels. And within 2 weeks of me playing with these language learning models, I called my mom. I said, Mom, I quit my job. I could barely afford to pay my bills. I said, Mom, I quit my job. I'm coming back home. And I was 23, 24 years old, coming back home. Mom was like super confused, but super excited at the same time because she's my bestie. And I started playing around with language learning models. And while everybody was, baking bread and trying to find toilet paper, I was learning how to use AI. And, a couple years later, I'm now making what I made in a year in half a month. And so, guys, the opportunity is there. And if you don't necessarily want to use AI yourself, surround yourself with people who use AI. It's kind of like that thing where they say, if you want to be a millionaire, sit at a table full of millionaires. If there's 5 millionaires at the table, you'll probably be millionaire number 6. Same thing with AI. Surround yourself with people who know AI, who utilize AI, who are passionate about AI. I'm happy that, I'm going to have the opportunity to release my website officially because I've, all of my clients have come to me through word of mouth. I have a wait list, and every time somebody comes to me for help, I don't have somewhere to direct them, and I'll be able to, direct them to a website now that hopefully helps them. But there's so many people on this call. There's so many people all over who can help you with AI, depending on what you're looking for, and use those people. Use those people. It's going to help you.
Thank you so much. Tom is back, and thank you to this panel. You guys were incredible. And I guess if we can have everybody step down, and we'll bring on our next speaker. Happy you're back, Tom.
Yes, thank you. And I really like what Flo had to say about community. And one of the goals of this symposium is to create that community. We do have a Facebook community that we have created, and we will refine that. And the goal is to help educate people. A rising tide raises all ships. I believe this symposium, as we go through one symposium per quarter, this will help get the word out, help reduce and draw down some of that fear and anxiety that people face. And it will help people open up to the possibilities that they can utilize artificial intelligence. It doesn't take a computer science degree, and it will open up some opportunity. One of the folks, I guess next up is Nick Newhouse. Let me bring him on to the. Hello, Nick.
Hey, Tom.
Welcome.
Good to see you. Hey, Sandy.
I am excited. This is if you are watching from the beginning, we mentioned a guest that is able to help show us how to write artificial intelligence code and program. And I think Nick is going to show us that. But you could start off maybe telling us a little bit about yourself. Maybe give 30, 45 seconds of who you are and what your company is and what you do, and then we'll get into some Q&A.
Sure. Yeah. Well, my background is all marketing. Been doing marketing since college. Been self-employed in different formats for many of those years. So right now, my full-time gig is I run a business called Business Video School. I'm one of the co-founders as well. And we primarily teach people how to use video. I got into using AI as part of that because we started to explore how to build custom AI tools for our students to write scripts and generate images for their videos. And that's kind of how I landed on this idea. I realized, making these AI tools was a lot simpler than I thought it was going to be. I don't know how to write code, and I was able to actually use ChatGPT to write it. So that was pretty cool. And so, yeah, I've been sort of experimenting ever since with making these, I call them AI lead magnets. So just really simple AI tools that attract customers, right? By basically helping them along their customer journey in a very personalized manner. So I'm hoping to share some of that today.
Well, I have to say that I hold you in high regard. You're a whole lot smarter than I am. I've toyed with the AI and programming, and it is way over my head. But I think you're going to show us how anybody can do that, and I'm really excited. So I'll turn the floor over to you. Take a few minutes and walk us through how to program AI software.
Yeah, so let me see if I can get this to work. I recorded a 1-minute video. It's a minute and 6 seconds, but it'll be really helpful just to see this quick demo if you don't mind. Let me see if I think this will load. Let me try. Yeah. So here it is. And I think you may have to, as the host, add that to the stream down there if you can. What you're watching right now is about 6-7 minutes of work. So first, we're here on Hugging Face. We've got this existing AI tool. It's called a neighborhood matchmaker. We're going to make a new one from this tool that actually suggests marketing strategies instead. So all we really do here is we create a copy of this space on Hugging Face. We're going to go into the back end and copy the code. Again, you don't need to follow all this too closely. Just get an idea of kind of how this process works. So we're copying this existing code. We're going over to ChatGPT, giving it a simple prompt. This is like 4 or 5 total sentences to kind of prime it. Then we give it the code as an example. We tell it what the new tool should do, and then it responds with that code. This is written in Python. And what's really crazy here is you're going to watch me copy that code, go back to Hugging Face, simply paste it in, hit save, and then here we go. We got an entirely new tool that's been created from scratch that now recommends customized marketing strategies. And it took about 6 minutes, and I never had to write any of the code. And that's really how easy this can be. So that's about a minute overview. It's about 7 minutes of work, right? So that's a little misleading. It does take a full 7 minutes to go through that process.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, this to me. So I understand. Obviously, somebody's going to see that, and a lot of folks are like, that's still too confusing, too much to do there. But it's only going to get easier. I mean, that's what's kind of wild to me is that this is the kind of stuff that I've always just sort of dreamed of. Man, once I have a tool that can just sort of write code for me, there's so many different things I'd like to try. And now not only can you do that, but you can then incorporate AI into the back end of that tool as well. And so, yeah, I mean, I think that's my main point here, and I'll elaborate obviously as we chat. But I think the main point is just try things. Just get in there and push the envelope a little bit, and then ask yourself, if I had access to magic right now, so to speak, like what would I make? What would I do? What are things that I've never tried but I've wanted to? And I think it opens that up for you.
So there have been, I think Hugging Face .co, I think was the website you had mentioned. And I just read before we started the event, there's another something similar. And I think the trend in the next 6 months to a year out is going to be more and more websites that allow the common user, maybe not someone that's not a techie, to be able to write code and test it and apply it. what you did is just absolutely amazing. How should a business owner, maybe someone that is knows a little bit of something, but how do someone like myself, how would I apply that? How would I go through and pick a model, and where do I start?
Yeah, so the cool thing, first of all, just go to huggingface.co. I love some of the business names out there, huggingface.co, and just check it out. I mean, that platform is just a myriad of experimental tools. It's really what it's for. It's kind of just it's an experimentation platform. So you'll even see like Meta has released some tools on there, right? So even the biggest companies in the world are using this thing, but all the way down to like students in school learning to use it. And so they're all making their own tools. They do drastically different things. I mean, every day there's new ideas out there. A lot of them don't work, right? Because again, they're trying and experimenting. So don't get frustrated if a couple of them don't ever actually produce any results. But you can find my profile. Just search for Nick Niehaus if you want to find the tools I've built. And what's cool is that you can just duplicate them. So all you really need to do is you just duplicate it. You copy in your own key from OpenAI, so you're using your own API key. And you can literally just copy them. I mean, you could just go to that extent, make your own copy. But then if you want to make a new tool, you just really need to describe it, right? I mean, I think that's the key there is you take the code that's existing from a Hugging Face and you give it to ChatGPT. And I'll say this is the most important part. The initial prompt is how you set it up for success, right? So you want to first of all tell it, I'm going to give you some example code, right? In fact, if anybody wants to reach out to me, I'll just send you a copy of the prompt. But just to summarize it, I'm going to give you some example code. I'm going to describe a new tool I want you to make based on this code, right? So you're just going to use this code and then make the tool based on it. And then the important part is do not change any part of this code that is not necessary to change, because it will just go in there and start messing with stuff, and all of a sudden the tool won't work. But as long as you say those things and then you say, okay, then you describe the tool, right? So in my case, okay, I said, I want you to make a tool that comes with marketing ideas based on what the business is and its ideal customer. And then here's the code, and then just hit enter. I mean, that's really that simple. And then it's going to give you its best version as a response.
So you said a sample prompt. If you are able to send me that sample prompt as we can create the community, we can disseminate that information out to the folks who could use it. Maybe even that sample video to help illustrate exactly what you're talking about. Because doing it on condensing 7 minutes worth of work, which you did beautifully in about 1 minute and 6 seconds, that was really fast. But the principle being there is absolutely amazing. And if I understand it right, are you able to instruct ChatGPT how or what kind of code to put in there, like marketing and direct chat? Is that what ChatGPT is? That the role that ChatGPT plays?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I think is so exciting here is that, you don't have to, you just have to tell it what you want the eventual tool to do, right? So I wasn't going in and saying like, insert this type of code or any of that. I'm just literally saying, and this is where the example code's so important, right? If I don't give it an example set of code, it's going to be much more, creative, right? Which we don't really want it to be. So I think that part is probably essential, at least for today. But as long as you have the sample code, and then again, the key is to tell it, don't change anything you don't need to change. Those sort of two parameters, then you just describe what you want, right? Now, this is, keep in mind, like it's going to use the format of the existing tool. So the current format was I just have some boxes that they're kind of describing their ideal neighborhood or some inputs, right? It's going to be similar in that sense, right? So if you want something that's more of a chat bot, or if you want to generate images, you're going to want to find a base tool that's closer to that. So I think if, think about that as you're sort of searching for that initial tool, but that's it. I mean, the rest is just describing. And then I'll give you one additional step. Keep talking to it, right? I mean, that's what's cool about this stuff is that you're just talking to it like an employee. So if it does something you don't like or comes back with a version that doesn't quite work the way you want it to, you just explain what it did wrong. A lot of times it's going to apologize to you, which is kind of funny. It's like, oh, I'm sorry. And then it makes you the right tool. And just keep chatting, right? It'll get you there eventually.
Okay. So let me ask you a question, because when you take that code, you input it back into huggingface.co. Is that where that code lives, or do you have to host it on a website?
Well, it will stay on Hugging Face, and there's lots of places you can host these tools. I mean, because again, you're basically just hosting a small piece of Python code.
Right.
One of the cool things about these AI tools, most of the work is done inside of the AI platform. In this case, OpenAI, same as ChatGPT. So you're but the tool itself is hosted on Hugging Face and it's embeddable. And I think that's what's also really cool is you can take it and you can put it on your website, right? So this is where we're going with this, right? So I mean, I think that's the real powerful thing. Google and these search engines, they're going to really prioritize websites where people spend a lot of time, that are interactive. Like the more interactive your website is, the more people are going to come to it, the higher it's going to rank in search. All those sorts of marketing benefits. So I think that's what we want people to try here, right? Is put a tool on your site, and then just tell everybody you possibly can, right? Because right now you're in a kind of window where you can be the first business of your kind in your industry in your area to offer this sort of personalized experience on your website. That should be a major differentiator and an advantage. So I think that's what you want to think about, right? Is what's something I could put on my site? It's going to help people earlier in their buying decision making, right? So something's that's why we had a neighborhood matchmaker for real estate agents, or like marketing idea generator for a marketing firm. You want to help them sort of early in the process, get that curiosity sparked, give them that kind of unique experience, and then they're going to go, oh wow, this company's really got something special. I want to talk to them further. That's kind of the idea.
Awesome. So that is one tool, and that as you've proven it to be very effective. What other tools, what other pieces of software would you recommend a small business owner implement, and they can do it cost effectively?
Well, so if you go about this, right, you're going to want to you need a landing page. So that could be honestly, just a blog post on your site. I think the only other thing you need to have there is a form that people can fill out, right? So I think that's the other part, is that you have the tool. I would recommend a video at the top of that page, and in that case, you may need a tool to embed the video. The one I use is called Vidyard. It's actually a video messaging tool, but it can also be used to embed videos. So we got that at the top. Then we got the tool, the AI tool we just built in the middle. The video is going to show them how to use it. And then the most important part is going to say, look, AI is not perfect. You're not always going to get a 100% accurate answer. And it's also just going to get things started. We need to then take it from there, right? So what I want you to do next is, once you get your response, go to the bottom of the page and fill the form out, right? So that's the last component, is that form. I think that just needs to integrate into your CRM. So whatever you're using currently is fine. Almost all CRM platforms are going to have forms. Now they're in your CRM, and now you do what you want with them, right? So I think like a set of emails that are triggered, like an email drip campaign automation. If you get their phone number, give them a call, or you can shoot them a text with a video message, something like that. Obviously, I'm a big video guy, so a lot of this stuff always incorporates video. But that's about it, right? And then I think it's just about putting it in front of people, just telling them it exists. So there's lots of ways to do that too.
That's amazing. What is, in your opinion, where do you think AI is going to be going to in the next 12 months?
Oh man, I think I was listening earlier. I mean, I think a lot of the ideas from earlier make a lot of sense. We will see consolidation. I do think that's going to happen, where these tools are going to become kind of more powerful. But this direction, I mean, this is just my bias because this is the area I'm working, right? But I do think that we, in the next 12 months, I'll see how far we get down this path. It's changing as faster than I even thought possible. So we might start to see these tools where you just talk to them and boom, you've got a tool on the other end, right? I think that was the CEO of NVIDIA the other day was talking about the idea that getting into learning to code right now might be one of the worst things you can do, because AI is eliminating that barrier, right? So instead of having to know how to write the code, you need the idea. So now it's becoming like, hey, we're all going to be coders. Now it's about having the idea and knowing how to market it and kind of the other parts of the business model. But I think in a lot of ways, that's where we're going, is sort of reducing the friction between humans and technology, right? So instead of having to know what buttons to click and what order in order to get the outcome you're looking for, we're going towards a future where you're just going to talk to things and you're going to get what you want, And I just saw OpenAI just announced they're making video now, right? I mean, that was a few weeks ago. So, the one I've always thought would be really cool is just this place. I don't know if we'll get there in 12 months. I want to give it a few years, but this idea where you could just describe a movie and it will generate it for you, right? So if we've all had those dreams of like, oh, it'd be cool to have this movie set in this scene and blah, 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 mix these 3 stories into one, whatever. And that's going to be possible, eventually, right? We're not quite there. So I think that's the way to think about it, is think about these sort of holistic systems. Right now, we're just sort of in the sandbox experimenting, I think.
Yeah. So I was talking to one of our future upcoming speakers a couple weeks ago, and I was asking him, I said, I felt like we are with AI where the internet was back in 1999. And this person is at a really high level, is really connected within the artificial intelligence software world. And he says, no, he goes, we are actually in 1995 in terms of the amount of advancements we still have yet to go. No, it won't take 4 years to get there, but it might be 2 years. But you look at what Sora, I think that was the Chat GPT's OpenAI's video, generative video module there was. And you look at the examples where we were 12 months ago, we're look kind of like clay figures, to today. It was seamless, ultra realistic images. It is. So in 12 months time, it's going to look completely different.
Yeah, it's mind blowing. It really is.
So I want to leave a last question, and it's very open ended. What is that one piece of advice you would give to a small business owner that is, or even just anybody that's looking to explore AI and how they can utilize it best? Where should they start?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think, to me, it's about the customer. I think a lot of folks start thinking of themselves. So how can I save time? Which it definitely can. How can I make more money? Definitely can, right? But I encourage businesses to think about the customer, right? Like, how can you give them a more personalized experience, more customized experience, right? Like that's I think what AI does for us. It allows us to give a completely unique experience to every single person we work with. And the companies that do that first are going to reap a massive PR benefit, right? I mean, they're going to be seen as completely different from their competitors, even if your services are incredibly similar. So I think is, if I was, kind of getting started with this stuff myself, and that is what we did, right? We looked at it and said, okay, how can I give each of my students, because we used to write scripts, give everybody the same ones, we still do, but now we have AI tools as well, and they can get their own customized version of the script, right? So I think that's really the key here is what can you do to give your customers an even better experience?
Wow. Well, Nick, thank you so much for giving so freely of your information and your knowledge. Hopefully our audience will be able to take a small piece of what they've learned from you and apply it to their business, apply it to their personal life, and draw down and reduce some of that fear they have surrounding AI. So thank you so much. We're going to bring to the stage next the Chat GPT Midjourney, the generative AI program panel. And so, Nick, thank you again, sir. Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Of course. Yeah, thanks for having me on. It was good to see you guys.
Good to see you.
Bye.
Bye. That was absolutely amazing. I'm going to go back and
Incredible.
watch that video. We can now program AI software, AI program. That is insane. You don't need a computer engineering degree to do that.
Yeah, well, fortunately, my husband is going to be retiring shortly because he's a computer engineer, because it sounds like his job may be obsolete in the near future, but maybe not.
Well, I want to take just a minute before we bring on the Chat GPT panel. If you're watching this, do us a favor. Share the live link to your socials. Maybe ask 2 or 3 people also to share their that link to their socials. We don't have a huge budget. This is everyone's giving freely of their time to put this event together for the betterment of and education of everybody. We are going to be creating a community and hosting another one of these, but it'll be, instead of a 4-hour event, it'll be a 2-day event. There's a QR code right there in the top right-hand corner. I would tag that. And then I think that's about all I have as far as promotional wise. I'm excited to get to the ChatGPT, Midjourney, Sora, the generative AI panel. I think it's going to be a really good panel. So let's go ahead and add the business panel here.
For sure. Because, there's so many different ways to use ChatGPT, and it sounds like someone has some background. So if we can just ask the panel to mute themselves until you're called on, that would be really beneficial.
Sorry, Sandy, go ahead. What were you saying?
Oh, yeah. No, I was just saying, even before this call started, Tom and I were saying, he's like, oh, I think because my Chat GPT wasn't working, and that's happened a few times. And he was like, well, the prompt, sometimes you'll just ask it a question and it'll, within seconds. And then other times it just sits and I'm like, did I really just just, am I giving ChatGPT a run for its money and it doesn't know how to answer this question? But it's user error, right? Like that's on me. So go ahead, Tom.
I think that the key, we're getting ready to get into it pretty deep here, but I think the key for the generative language models is a very detailed, very descriptive prompt. So it used to be a prompt, a copywriter, a content writer, a ghostwriter. They are now becoming prompt engineers, and knowing how to write a prompt in such a way it produces the outcome that you want. But that's just scratching the surface. But I would like to go around the room here. Karen, Jamie, Stephanie, Jake, thank you so much for being with us. Why don't we open it up with giving you a chance to introduce yourselves, who you are, what your company is, and just say hello to everybody. Karen, why don't we start with you?
Thank you. So thankful to be here today. I'm an experiential speaker and coach. My background is marketing. One of the things that makes it so exciting about AI for me is the fact that it's just like it was 15 years ago when I started my marketing company. It was social media then, now it's AI. And so another one to get excited about. So that's where I come from.
Awesome. Jamie.
Yeah, thanks. Great to be here. My name's Jamie, the founder of Absolutely AI. We create visual content for businesses, specializing in generative AI tools. Fantastic position to be in. My background is in photography, and you talked a little bit about it in the last chat, but bringing the past experiences into your current AI niche or world is really fun to do. So yeah, I bring kind of photography, visual arts into the AI world.
Awesome. And you are speaking from
Australia.
Australia. That's awesome.
2 Aussies today. Nice.
Stephanie, welcome.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Stephanie. I run at BAS LLC. We are a boutique construction company here in Texas. We are also live streaming to TikTok today to 30,000 followers plus. So that is why my setup looks a little different, because we've been live streaming all day taking questions. So I use AI every single day to make my life at work and as well as social media function. And I'm glad to be here. So thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thank you. And Jake, welcome.
Hey, how you doing today, Tom? Good to see you, Sandy. I'm excited to be here with Karen, Stephanie, and Jamie today, especially Jamie. He's got just like the coolest voice. I'm sorry. That's just where that's going to go. I had to wear the hat just simply so Sandy knew who I was, and I had something to stand apart from Jamie. So I'm Jake Clendenning with CT Impact. We are a resource coaching consulting company and training company. We're building resources using AI and using a lot of tools for every business owner, entrepreneur, C-suite executive, and really trying to meet them where they're at so that they can effectively use all the tools that without having to become a prompt engineer, if you will.
Awesome. Hey, Sandy, you want to take the first question?
Absolutely. So I love hearing real life stories. I'm a podcaster, so I love hearing people tell their stories. And I'm just going to share a quick one of how it really helped me in my business. But so when I go around, I want to hear how you've used ChatGPT or another one to help you in your business. So I launched some products with my brand because I'm happiness. Everything's all about happiness for me. And I was creating my Etsy store, and I was like, how am I going to, I've never been in retail. How do I write a description? I was like, duh, ChatGPT. And I went on there, and I tell you, within seconds, it was just so easy for me to have to sell a product, because that's not my niche. And I'm a solopreneur. I don't have the budget to just hire somebody for every little project that I'm starting. And it really took a lot of the anxiety out of launching products. And it's helping me to sell the products in the store, in a way that people can read and be like, oh, okay, yeah, that sounds great. So that's my real life story. Karen, let's start with you. Give us a real life story of how it has helped you in your business.
Absolutely. Well, as a speaker, it's the perfect place to go to start my framework. I have a topic and then I decide my framework, come up with titles, ideas. It's unlimited.
Love it. Love it. Jamie, what about you?
Yeah, I use ChatGPT for a lot of things, very conversationally in whatever project. I'm a bit like you, Sandy, solopreneur, but any project I'm doing, just to have a conversation with it, I always start with that. But also Mid-Journey. I know this is a ChatGPT Mid-Journey kind of combo. Using Mid-Journey for everything. I mean, with my photography background, I originally found that, Mid-Journey was so good, so realistic at creating images. I thought it could fool people, win an actual award. So I actually won the first photography competition using an AI generated image at the start of last year, just to show we're at a bit of a turning point with AI and how realistic. And of course, we've seen how nuts and bananas it's got over the past year.
Great. Stephanie.
All right. Thank you. So I have actually been using ChatGPT for a long time. I found a ChatGPT through a friend of mine that was actually worked for Microsoft. And so she was posting a lot of stuff on Facebook when it first came out on how she was using it and whatnot. And so I was like, how are you doing this? And what are you doing? And so she kind of turned me on to it and walked me through it a little bit. I actually use ChatGPT every single day. Little side note. I had a traumatic brain injury last year from a car accident. And Tom can attest to this, is that I have moments where I forget words. It's right there. I know what I want to say. It's gone. ChatGPT, what am I trying to say? Like, what is this? I'll forget something that I should be. And I'll just be like, what is it? But I use it to write my emails sometimes. I deal with a lot of crucial conversation style type of emails. And so ChatGPT has really helped me elevate that and take the emotion out of what I'm trying to convey. And so I really like that aspect of it. I know a lot of people are be like, it takes, there's no personality to it. But for me, I have to have a lot of crucial conversations through email, and everybody knows people take emotion out of it all the time. So it's been a game changer there. A blog post has helped me. Social media, though, ChatGPT has skyrocketed my game when it comes to algorithms and social media content. And so I really like that aspect of it. It really pays attention to the trends. It has helped me get in front of crowds and people that I wasn't really touching before because of the algorithm base of that nature. And so finding the perfect hashtags, or what are we trending towards, or what are we doing, that's really helped my business. And so I've utilized it that way. And I enjoy it.
Fantastic. Jake, and thank you for wearing your hat. You're just not the same when you're not wearing it.
It's just not the same. I know. I just don't show up the same way. So the consistency that I saw from Karen, Jamie, and Stephanie is it's like the +1 tool. Like it's that I need an answer to this question. And the one thing that I figured out, and Jamie said this, is be very conversational with it. Just be very conversational. It's not about being a prompt engineer where you've got to write this something really, really complicated. It's about asking better questions to get the answer you're really looking for. One of the things I found was true during, and I'll tell you the story, was the most important thing I could ask it was, do you understand the response? Or do you understand the request? Because then it'll spit out what it is. If that's not the answer I'm looking for, I asked it the wrong question. So it makes me get better at asking questions overall, so I get the right answer. Once I get to the right iteration that it understands the response, then I ask it to do the thing. Because if I ask it the wrong question, it's going to give me the wrong answer. That's how that's going to go. I used it. So I recently finished a book. I've written 2 books now. This is the first book that I wrote. It's called Rings of Impact. I used it as an editor that I went into. So what I was doing is I'd go in and I'd work on just put it out on the page, get it all written, just write. And then I'd take and I'd plug it back into ChatGPT, copy and paste, and say, I want you to edit this for spelling, grammar, sentence structure, flow, make any recommendations in italics, and put that at the bottom. And it would go through this huge editorial process that would take me forever to do on my own. And it would still be wrong, to where it would just spit it back out and go, here's where you made all these mistakes. You put commas in all the wrong places, and it would just fix it for me. It'd make it nice and clean and be able to transition into my next thought. It saved me a mountain of money on editing. At the end, when I sent the whole book to the editor, he came back to me and he actually said, man, you wrote this really, really, really well. Like I didn't have a lot of work to do. And I went, yeah, I didn't do that. I had to ask for help from my assistant, and that's what I used it for.
Oh my
Love it.
gosh, that is awesome. That's probably one of the best case uses I've seen. Actually, to tack onto that, Jake, about a year ago, I used ChatGPT to write a book about AI. I used AI to write a book about AI, and that was primarily just help me understand the foundations, the different type of AIs, just more of the foundational points, final points of AI. But to your point, it did that. Garbage in, garbage out, some really great points. I want to shift the conversation a little bit because you have Google Bard, Midjourney, ChatGPT, Claude. You have a bunch of different type of generative language programs out there, and would like to understand maybe some of the differences between them. And then a second part of that question. So first, the differences. And the second part is go into maybe some of the features, because a lot of what we've been talking about thus far is image generation, or you ask it a question and it spits out, but there's a whole lot more than just ask a question and get an answer. So Karen, would you mind kicking that off?
Sure. Now I'm kind of a purist, so I've stayed with ChatGPT for so much of it that's where I've invested most of my time. I've just started to wander out a little bit and try a few of the different ones. So I'm probably not the best one to answer that.
No worries. Jamie.
Yeah, one of the big updates that came with ChatGPT a few months ago now was the GPT store and actually making your own GPTs. And it's fantastic to do that because I'm actually working with a business now to create a negotiation type bot. So you can put in all these prompts and it remembers them in a structure that you'd like it to then build on. And then you can go back to your private GPT and use this app in however way you would. So you can set it up to have like all of the information there, and it's almost like your own personal kind of small language model that you can build on. That's something I'd encourage people to look at, the GPT store. You have to have the premium version of ChatGPT. So it's $30 a month or whatever it is. But yeah, I highly recommend people looking into that area.
Awesome. And for I guess Stephanie and Jake, if you aren't familiar with some of the differences, maybe identify some of the favorite features of what you currently use. Stephanie, differences?
So I actually use Chat on AI app, which I have found has a ton more features that utilize ChatGPT, and it's free. There are some add-ons that you can do, but for what I utilize it for business, Chat on AI is my game changer, and it's constantly updating. And so if you guys have not found that, I would find it. It's in the App Store, but it is, like I said, it does everything that I mentioned earlier as far as my social media, my responses, things like that. I'll use ChatGPT on the desktop, but Chat on AI for me has really been the game changer, and it's free. So
that's awesome. Jake.
So I noticed there's a huge difference. Like if we look at ChatGPT, like the difference between the free version and the slightly paid version is fairly profound. And if you test each one, you're going to get different results out of that. One of the cheats, and Nick totally gave it to us as he was speaking, which I'm going to go back and watch that. I mean, the stuff that he was doing, because like I'm doing that to a degree, but he made it look so accessible to what everybody was doing within the writing. But I'm using the same thing as a trick. Is I will have ChatGPT write the prompts for my ChatGPT. I'll have it build the bots out for me. I'll have it build the prompting out for me so that it'll build the framework out for me. I'll have it do the exact same thing when I go to write the generative AI over on, if I'm going to do an image, right? I haven't used the video content as much. Like Effie was super dupe. Like if you're going to go for video, just hire her and let her do it. It's amazing. I watched her again. I always love listening to what she's doing because she's just being so disruptive. But anytime that I need it to do something, I ask it to write the prompt. How would you write the prompt if you wanted it to do this, this, and this? Do you understand the request? It'll create the prompt, and then it'll start a whole new prompt chain with that particular piece. And then I can follow the chain. I can go back and I can grab it and say, based on the previous thing, I want you to do this or plus one it or add on. And the reason we do that is, again, and who said it? Oh, Effie said that earlier. If you got 5 platforms you need to do a thing on and you need to work on, you're likely not to do it. You're just likely not going to do it. So, and that's true of me too. So I've got 2 that I use. I use literally an image generator, and I'm using ChatGPT, but I'm building what I want. I'm basically building bots and bolt-ons using ChatGPT to make it do what I want it to do.
Awesome. And real quick, Stephanie, would you mind repeating the app? We had a few comments on social media asking what that app was.
Sure. It's Chat on AI. Chat on AI.
Stephanie? It looks like, did I download the right one?
Yeah, that's it. I'm glad you came back to me
on.
because I wanted to touch base on something Jake said, but I mentioned this Reclaim AI. I'm not sure if you guys know about it, but for your own personal scheduling, to-do lists, and keep you on task and on target, Reclaim is great right now. I hope it progresses and does better. I hope they keep adding to it, but for right now, it is really great as well for business owners.
What is that tool? Reclaim AI?
Reclaim. So basically, it's an integration for your calendar, so you can task things, prioritize them, and it'll basically watch your calendar, and so it'll put it in spots, like it'll work with your calendar and how you set it up, like for appointments and stuff, and it'll find spaces to put the tasks that you need to do with the time that you have allotted for that. And if you don't get to it and check it off, it'll just bump it back to the next available spot. And so you can have as many tasks as you want, and it'll just keep reorganizing them in there for you until you say, okay, I've gotten it done. And so it just, for somebody like me that runs a very busy life, that is a game changer for me, and it saves my life. It just really saves me so much time.
Can you spell it?
It's RECLAIM, Reclaim. That does not have a smartphone application yet. That is just
I was going to say, yeah. Okay. Thank you.
I've been hoping for it because I would really like that task list on my phone. That's why I said it's in its infancy right now. However, it really is a great product, and how it integrates with Google Calendar right now is really great. Don't even get me started talking about integrations, because there are so many that I'm just manifesting on a daily basis with how I run my life. So I'm praying to the integration gods here soon.
Oh my goodness, that is so funny. All right. So looking forward, how do you see conversational AI evolving, right? And what can businesses do to stay ahead? Because right now, yes, when I used ChatGPT to write the description for my product in an Etsy store, like, that's fine, right? When I'm writing an email, I want it to be as conversational as possible, and I want it to sound like it's coming from me and my voice. So how do you see that moving forward in the future? And we'll start with Karen.
Well, I think we've already been there. I mean, we've got all the chat bots. We've got the VA voice activated tools. We've got the text to speech. We've got the speech recognition with the transcribing AI, Fireflies, all of those kind of things. I think they're just going to have to become a little more emotional intelligent. And I think as they continue to do that, and, it's just like we do. We learn daily. These bots are learning as well. So I just think they're just going to continue to get better, but it's just going to be the fact that they have to keep working on them.
Can I touch on that for a second?
Absolutely.
Something, and I apologize if I mispronounced her name, but it was that Effie that was in the last roundtable.
Aoife.
Her super dupe technology sounds amazing, and I cannot wait to jump into it. But if anybody missed that segment on her super dupe, like, I have been praying for this technology. I had no idea it was out there. A second me is all I've ever asked for. I just need a second me. And that, I think, is where this conversation that you're asking us about is that conversational AI. I think in that super dupe technology is going to be amazing for some of us that are very small business owners.
Great. And Jamie?
Yeah, I think everyone's touching on the same kind of points in that you use ChatGPT and it can give you answers that aren't very real, like a real person. So you want to use these tools, but you don't want to lose yourself in the process. So I think that the way that this is going to work is the tools, ChatGPT, all of these different large language models will begin to learn you and learn the way that you do things. So you're not a person using the technology, it is actually just reflecting you as an identity, really. So I think right now the best thing you can do is to give as much context into yourself, into your goals, into your situation as possible. I always tell people that, if you ask dumb or bland, not dumb, but if you ask bland, simple questions, you'll get bland, simple responses. So go really deep with it. Have a conversation. Imagine it's a real person, particularly on the chat function, you can do this. Imagine it's a friend and just list everything you're thinking about this certain thing, and you'll get way better responses.
Love it. Stephanie, anything else you'd like to add?
I was just giggling to myself because Jamie's talking over here, and I just keep imagining these guys that have now created fake girlfriends out of ChatGPT. So
they're on the rise too. They're on the rise.
Yeah, maybe not be that too personal, but yes, I mean, and when you really think about it, there's something for everybody, even guys looking for girlfriends, but there's just really something about it that's just amazing. I mean, even if you think about just the smaller kid technology, and I'm not sure if any of y'all have kids, but the new Furbies, have y'all seen those? And the Furbies that were available to us 30 years ago, and the technology that has come out with those. My daughter saved up all her money and just bought one. And so I've experienced it now in my household. Not nearly as annoying as they were 30 years ago, but the technology and what they're doing with just children. I mean, it's insane. And I'm so excited about this, but it's, let's go back to the old days sometimes too,
And Jake, what are your thoughts on this?
So I think to answer that question, I think Stephanie nailed it previously before you asked the question, and she said integration, right? She said integration of different tools. So it's going to be the seamless integration, to go all the way back to what Aoife said, was it's got to be the seamless integration. We got to take the 5 platforms we use all the time. They've got to be in the one space, and they've got to work together. I think that's going to be the biggest piece that's going to make it much more easily. I mean, from an accessibility standpoint, there's still a lot of standoff going on as far as people just not wanting to embrace the technology. And, in the previous panel, Flo talked about this a little bit about employees that are afraid of AI replacing them. Well, the employees that are embracing AI that are making themselves irreplaceable, and you don't have to do it at an excessively, huge level. You can go back to this conversation reminds me, you go back to Tim Robbins' 4-Hour Work Week. When he wrote that book, this is what that's about. Leverage, 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 leverage. How can I gain 5 hours in a day? We talked about that. How can I pick up 5 minutes in a panel? So the integration is a huge, huge deal. And to answer Sandy's question, and everybody's talking about that, they're like, hey, I want this to be a more personal note of how I would write it. You would be shocked that I would tell you I have a bot for that's rolling out in the next couple of days. That's what it does. Because I had that same, everything we're building is because I need a tool, much like what Stephanie's doing. She's like, I need a thing. It needs it to do the thing. Go build the thing. We're doing the exact same deal. And this bot came out of, Sandy and I were actually at an event in Las Vegas in December. And I did something dumb in the event, and I said something out loud that wasn't a fully formed thought, that was not the way that I normally speak. And it landed on the audience like a brick. It was terrible. So it was like, okay, we need, I realized that in my email messaging and my social media posts and how I'm coming across a lot of times, and I'm going to own it. I can be short and abrasive. I'm aware of that in how I speak, but that's not how I typically communicate. So what if I had a bot that would help me fix some of that language within that to actually speak how I think? We built the bloody thing. It is literally getting ready to roll out. Guess how we built it? We kept asking ChatGPT how you would do the next step. And you just let it build itself, and literally the bot's getting ready to roll out. Like Nick, literally with the copy and paste, I was like, yes, that's exactly what we're doing. But he's doing it at the coding level. But you can build anything you want to integrate anything you want if you ask it the right questions.
Yeah. So think of a Bard, Midjourney, Claude, ChatGPT as a personal software engineer, assistant, travel agent, logo designer, graphic designer, copywriter, just about anything that you can imagine, from writing productivity to doing research. I've used it recently on is it ChatGPT Consensus to research academic papers in court cases. There is a whole lot more that people are still coming out with, continually adding to the repertoire and the database and the value that these generative AI languages can create. That is just absolutely amazing. But amongst, I think it was Dr. Alan Brand, the previous said there are thousands of programs within each one of these generative language models. There are literally thousands of programs even inside of these larger programs. So my question to the panel here is, how do you choose what to use without losing the quality of customer service? Jake, why don't we, if you don't mind going back to back here, kicking that question off.
Not at all. So the easy answer to that, always start with the end in mind. When you're running through some of these models of what's the customer experience, what's the customer use it for. So if I'm the customer for any of the AI platforms that I'm particularly using, I'm going to want ease of use. I want results right now. When I'm using technology, I don't want to have to go in and have to spend a week learning the platform. I just don't want to do that. And when I'm creating content from chat, any of the platforms, right? I use chat because that's the easiest one, everybody knows. When I'm creating content, I'm not creating it from what do I want. I'm creating it from who's the end user. So what my client wants, if I have a coaching client that's a hedge fund operator in Silicon Valley, that's going to want a specific result, I'm going to ask it to produce that result based on the resources that I give it, based on the legacy data that I have. If we think with the end in mind and we think end user in mind, for me, that's the best way to make sure we're getting the result that we want. Because what I build for me is maybe not what Stephanie wants. It may not be what Karen wants. It may not be what Jamie wants. But if I build something and I think, okay, Stephanie said she wants integration. She's got these 5 platforms. How would we build this to fulfill what Stephanie wants it to do? It's still going to fit what I want it to do in the end, but she gave me the +4 to be able to get to where it is where she needs it to run. So when we think end in mind, that for me, that's the best way to build it.
Awesome. Stephanie.
I honestly, I keep it out of my interface with my clients. So I basically just use all AI in-house because my clients, like I said, I'm a boutique construction company. My clients are not going to do well. They need that personal touch. They need that personal experience. And so the only things that I utilize it for, and being in Texas, we used to operate off handshakes. And so this is new. And I don't, it's slow for me to transition it to my clients, but I will say when we had that freeze a couple of years ago, I made my own Google Forms. So I used a form of the AI to implement it in the back office, but I keep all my AI basically in-house and I do all my customer stuff personal right now. That may change in the future, but it's going to have to go slow down here in Texas. I can tell you that.
Thank you. Jamie.
Yeah, I think it's different client to client or person to person. Some people are still, as we've said before, they have their backs up against it, still fighting against this new technology, and that's completely fine. But I think it's our job, people who do have some knowledge of this technology, to bring them in whatever way that might be, ease them into it. I work a lot with photographers who are terrified of it because they're worried of losing their jobs. But I think that even for people like that who directly feel like they're in the firing line, you can show them, hey, okay, well, there's ways that you can use ChatGPT to schedule shoots, to look at different locations that you could go, talk about different lighting, You could even put some of your own images through different AI tools that aren't generating new things, so it still keeps the integrity of their work. It's just finding the right way to approach people, I think, when it comes to this technology, because we're all dealing with it at the same time. I think there's been moments where everyone's had their mind blown, and that's fantastic because this is mind-blowing technology. It's just about looking past that and, okay, how can I integrate that into my work, into my life?
Awesome. And then I want to come back to you with a follow-up question, because I think you can. Why don't we just do it now, and then Karen, I'll come back to you in just a minute. So, talking about photographers and art, one of the big fears I know in the artist community is theft. What are some measures that are? This is probably a great conversation for the ethics panel next, but how can someone protect their program, protect their art from being stolen?
There's one good way, and that's to keep it offline. I mean, no one gave permission. This applies to ChatGPT. This applies to any of the image generators, Midjourney, whatever you want. No one gave consent at the start for their stuff to be taken down and then trained on. Now we have a heads up that this stuff is even possible, that this stuff is going on. So what I tell people is, if you really don't want it to be stolen, keep it offline. Of course, it's not always that simple, but I think it's going to be very difficult. I mean, Adobe is doing a great job. They're creating an initiative where they're Firefly, so they generate imagery in Photoshop as well. They create imagery. They say it's all trained off copyrighted, non-copyrighted stuff. Yeah, so there are combats against this at the moment, but if you want to be super safe, keep it offline. But then what's to stop? I can talk about this for ages, but yeah,
How do you,
skip off.
my question is, how do you market then? Because all marketing is done on social media. So if you're trying to keep your work off a line, what purpose, you're fighting a losing battle there, because you're not going to be able to market it. Nobody's walking into other people's houses looking at portraits on the walls or things like that and going, oh, who's that? Everything is done online. Every reference, referrals, everything. So how do you protect yourself in that manner?
Yeah.
And this is something we're all working at. They're looking at doing kind of like a metadata type watermarking, so you can see the original source of the image. But I can think of a few ways around that. It is something that we're going to have to think about getting around. Right now, it is quite tough and quite scary, I think, if you spent your whole life developing your own artistic style and someone can come along and look at it, grab it, make some iterations of that, so it would still be in your style but creating new works. It is a scary new world in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I think the answer is going to be eventually blockchain, but we'll talk about that in the next panel. But Karen, wanted to give you a chance to answer the previous question there as well.
Sure. As far as using it with clients, using it as far as onboarding, things like that, that works extremely well. Otherwise, I enjoy it so much. I'm teaching more of how to use it, and what to use as far as prompts and how to get the right answers. And I just get real personal with chat. I just call him Chatty. So Chatty, what do we do on this? And so just it's a conversation. You just build a friendship here and keep moving. But it's a great area for me. Like I said, for the onboarding. The other area that it's good for is even with creating contract, sending out and creating contracts, even with the speaking. Awesome.
Well, we are in the transitionary period to the AI ethics, and you couldn't have dovetailed it any more perfectly. So I want to thank Karen, Jamie, Stephanie, Jake for all your insights into ChatGPT, the generative language models. Thank you so much for spending some time with us today.
Yeah. Thank you for having us.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys.
That was absolutely amazing. I think as we add the ethics panel to the stage here, we're going to get into some really sticky topics. I know one of the panelists, he says, I hate AI. I hate artificial intelligence, and looking forward to hearing him be the protractor of the group, maybe. But as folks come on here, we get going on the ethics panel. I would encourage that if you're watching this, feel free to share this live stream to your socials and ask maybe one or two people to also share it as well. The information being provided here has been amazing. It's really been very informative. And we are missing one person here. All right. I think we are good to go on the ethics. Sandy, I'll turn it over to you.
All right. So welcome back to a few of you. You were on earlier. For those just joining us on the panel, thank you for being here. Let's just take a brief moment to go around and introduce yourself to the audience, and then we'll get to a question. Ava, can you hear me?
Yes. Can you hear me? Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yes,
Hi,
ma'am.
hi everyone's again. It's such a pleasure being here. It's been absolutely a phenomenal day so far. And my name is Ava Tech, and I am. I came from business backgrounds. I work with enterprises in both enterprises and startups in some large digital transformations. Right now I am running my own management consulting firm, and I'm helping small and medium businesses to integrate AI, technology into their systems, IT system, to improve processes, and helping their customer and employee happier.
Fantastic. And Dr. Brent Fessler.
Hey, good evening, everybody. I'm Brent Fessler. I'm in San Antonio, Texas. My undergrad is in engineering. I used to build signal intelligence systems, spent about 14 years in higher education. And so I consider myself an educator, but my doctoral research is actually in adult character formation. And so I love identity. I love values, integration, and bringing those out into the open. I'm also a musician, so I love the art conversation that we were just having in the previous panel. And so I'm excited to be here and look forward to learning from everybody else on this panel.
Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Corbin Allenbrand.
Oh, it's interesting, Brent. My master's in chemical engineering. So before I did my doctoral studies in analytics and information theory, I was a chemical engineer. It's a natural transition. I basically manage data engineering and data science for about 20 of the kind of Midwest states of the United States for a company called Quest Diagnostics. And I also do kind of artificial intelligence, machine learning, and blockchain research. So I have a few publications out there.
Nice. Austin Smith.
Hi, my name's Austin Smith. I am down here near Cocoa, Florida, Cape Canaveral, where they shoot off all the cool SpaceX rockets every other day. Very thankful for it. Glad to be involved here as well. My background started when I was pretty young. At the age of 12, I opened my first business before the days of the internet. I had a bulletin board system. So hardware was natural for me, then kind of got into software development. And then as my career progressed, infrastructure became a big thing, and then got into software architecture. And my most recent enterprise gig was enterprise architecture. So very, very well focused on software integration methodologies, and most importantly, some of those fundamentals that we should all carry with us by nature, which is security by default.
Awesome. And John.
Yeah, hey, thanks for having me back. I appreciate it. My name is John Caudill. I'm located here in San Antonio, Texas as well. CEO of Legacy Building Consultants. We specialize in claim dispute resolutions for insurance carriers. And yeah, ethics. I could talk about ethics and AI all day. I said earlier in my previous panel that I'm sort of in the middle. In some ways, I might seem like I advocate for it. In other ways, I feel a little cautious about it. I don't want to go too fast, too far, and then realize, oh no, we've created a monster, like everybody's talking about Skynet. And so the ethics in as far as supply chains, automation, different industries, I think it makes a lot of sense. Insurance is service based. And so now we're getting into human interaction with customers. And so So just how do we deal with that? The black and white situations certainly makes a lot of sense to use AI, but there's a lot of gray area in how do we integrate AI into the decision-making process. So I look forward to discussing that a little bit further.
Awesome. Well, I want to. This is a very AI is a topic that can be polarizing. It strikes a lot of fear in a lot of people, mainly for they can lose their well-being, their livelihood. But on the ethics panel, I wanted to discuss how can businesses avoid giving control of their business to and essentially creating Skynet. What can be done to protect data? Austin, do you want to open us up with this question?
Absolutely. Yeah. As I mentioned, security by default is very important. Taking part in a symposium today, I love every topic that has been discussed and would like to piggyback off some of those items. So, for instance, with the programming and generative code, I recommend one step past generating the code, and that would be source control analytics for security. It's called SAST, SAST in the industry. And basically what it does is it goes through the code and checks for programmatic vulnerabilities within the application itself. So having that checkpoint there can make sure that we're not potentially creating a platform that could be really used for a botnet or cross-site scripting or something of that nature, right? That's just one of the many steps that we need to take and kind of lay the groundwork for as we get into this. Just because we should doesn't mean we should, right?
Right.
Also, data scrubbing, garbage in, garbage out. I've heard that a few times today. I need to make sure that we take care, not to pump social security numbers, date of births, or any PII, PHI into these platforms when it's someone else running the platform, right? Because we cannot ensure data integrity all the way through.
Dr. Corbin.
Yeah, I think we can take comfort in knowing that humans won't be taken over for a good probably decade or so. True general artificial intelligence is pretty far off. We're amazed by generative AI, so we all think use ChatGPT, but how many tasks do humans do besides conversation, fact lookup and so forth? But yeah, I think, Austin, your point about security by default is an interesting notion. And for those who don't know it, basically it means when you design software or some kind of information system, the settings of that are the most secure possible. And some people find this controversial because it pushes up against how usable it is, right? Some people don't like it because it constrains things. But since this is an ethics panel, I think another concept that we can kind of think about is to relate it to security by default is ethical design. So the idea here is when you design an AI product, you don't just use AI engineers, ML engineers. You bring in philosophers, you bring in sociologists, you bring in psychologists and ethicists, and they help you build systems so that they don't violate certain human rights and things like human autonomy. But generally speaking, we're pretty far off from Skynet. I know the media likes to amplify things, but when you're on the ground floor of these things, you realize just in the background kind of how primitive things truly are.
Great perspective. Dr. Brent.
Yeah, I think what you said, just because you can doesn't mean you should. One of the things that technological disruptions bring is this, blowing out barriers. We saw it, a decade ago with digital rights management, with music. Now all of a sudden I can make copies easily and distribute them. I never really had to confront that ethics because I just couldn't. It wasn't practical to do things before. And so as business leaders or leaders in our organizations, we got to remember who we are and go in there and just we have to be asking ourselves, just because I can gather this data or do this with AI, does it mean that I should? We can't just lay down our values. In fact, we have to kind of pull them back out because one of the things that happens when we get into kind of homeostasis with a particular ecosystem environment, the ethics kind of get built into the norms of everything. So I don't really have to work really hard to live ethically because I just kind of go along with the flow. And now you have something disruptive and the norms are getting all jacked up. And so like, we can't forget our values as we are living in this, especially this disruptive phase.
Awesome. Miss Ava.
Yes. So, I can come from my own personal experience helping organizations, especially some of the organizations in healthcare. The first thing we need to think about is like how, if we integrate AI into IT systems, how are we going to do that in a way that is secured and bring peace of mind for the patients, because this can be a very sensitive information related to their personal health history. So that leads me to the second point, is that when we are when we're thinking about creating an AI new platform or AI integrations with the IT system, we need to really create that governance, that body, bringing all different stakeholders into it, and really have people from different point of view, having some really, even you can consult the legal and the compliance office too, because that's related to a lot of important and sensitive data. And then the third thing I would say is the education, like what we're doing right now. So every companies really should give time and space for leaders as well as staff to really learn about ethical implications. Like especially for folks who actually use large data. Sometimes AI can, if data is not clean to start with, then it has the way to manipulate or make bias.
Yeah, and something you and I talked about when we spoke a few weeks ago was implementing technology within a very strategic approach, right? You don't want to just haphazardly throw a new program out there without having it tested, without knowing how it's going to impact all shareholders, how it's going to impact the customers, the customer perception of the company. There's a lot of factors there. John, what do you?
Yeah, so I think planning. I think getting down and really understanding that not one size does not fit all. So fast food restaurants may use AI different than, again, insurance, which is the industry that I'm in. Insurance really touches every part of our life. So whether it's your home, auto, health insurance, life insurance, it has a lot of sensitive information. So I feel like visiting current security protocols, visiting current just standards that you use. As a leader of my organization, I bring the other executive leaders into the discussion and really, I think, hash out what our concerns are, and then again the lawyers, making sure that we're not doing anything illegal, making sure that our data is completely secure. I think that has to be vital. Number one, we have to trust the data, but our customers, more importantly, need to trust that they're giving us information that we're going to be able to protect it. So I think that's a valid concern. Right now, I think using it for minuscule tasks or tedious tasks, I think that's important. But getting too far involved, I think there has to be a lot of planning that goes into the use of AI and what information we're feeding that from our systems.
Awesome. Well said.
Very interesting. Very interesting. So I'm kind of curious. In what role does transparency play in the use of AI by small businesses? Like, do we need to be transparent when we're having these processes? And how does that affect decision-making with customers and their trust using a specific brand? Ava, we'll start with you. You need to unmute, Ava.
Yes, so I'm back. So the question is, how do we build trust with customers and stakeholders using AI, and how are we bringing that transparency about AI in the operation, while creating that system to operate? So these are really important questions, right? Like, once again, I think it's about that communication. First of all, that planning. First of all, like I mentioned, 55% of organizations planning to deploy some sort of AI initiative in the next 12 months, and 20% have already deployed some sort of AI, but a lot of time, a lot of this AI initiative is not being thought through. So there's a lack of even transparency and communication that really create a lot of barriers for building that trust with stakeholders, even with employees, I would say treat this as a digital transformation. So having that communication every step of the ways, really having that transparency from the higher goals, missions, and how you break it down to employees and the stakeholders and even your customers. It's really important because then everyone understands what are they going to, why are they using AI. Is really AI is important here.
Exactly. Fantastic answer. Thank you so much. Dr. Brett.
Yeah, I think, as people get more, as users get more comfortable with AI, they'll get comfortable with the responses from it. But I don't know if we'll ever get past, I want to know if AI is talking to me or not, if I'm trying to interact with a company. And if the company's trying to act like they're communicating to me as a person, but it is AI and I can tell it, man, my trust goes down really quick as a user, right? But if you tell me it's AI, I think, hey, this is kind of cool. I'm not wasting somebody's time. I can actually, kind of take my time with this. I'm okay if I know it. And so I think, to Ava's point, the communication, especially the customer, we're using AI for this. I'm a real person now. I don't want to ever be caught as trying to pretend to be a real person and it's really AI. And I think we're going to lose trust with customers if we try to do things like that.
Totally agree. And it, I was laughing because I don't know if you've all seen the Discover has these series of advertisements with this one actress, and I'm not even sure who she is, but she's pretty funny. And it's like, oh, wow, you bots are starting to sound more human-like. But yeah, I agree with you, Dr. Brent. If you know, like when you know that it's a bot and it's pretty obvious, then you're set up. But when it's trying to, if it sounds like a human and I find out it's not, like they'd lose my trust.
Well, yeah, I got an email back from somebody the other day and it was clearly AI. I was like, hey, cool. Way to use AI to try to compose an email, but you didn't even proofread this thing. You didn't take out the brackets where it said, dear insert name right here, right? So I'm like, oh my gosh, right?
Sorry
at least
about that.
proofread the thing so that I know that it's accurate information coming out. So.
Exactly. All right, Dr. Corbin.
Yeah, I think I'll get a little like first principles. What do we mean by transparency? So this is an interesting question because sometimes these terms are kind of vague and lack clarity, at least for me. Other people can kind of agree. So I like to think that when you're being transparent, what are you trying to do? You're basically trying to promote trust and accountability. So you want your customers, let's say, to trust you, and you want them to know that you're accountable. So part of transparency, especially if we're using a definition of AI, which is a system that can reach decisions, not just do routine tasks. How are those decisions reached? What information, what data was used to reach those decisions, and what was the purpose of you using this AI system? So if you're a small business owner and you're using AI to help you reach decisions, especially ones that are customer facing, and you can't explain how those decisions were reached, you're in a danger zone. Because people find this very untrustworthy. Interestingly enough, I'll leave it here, but there's a whole field in AI called explainability or explainable AI, which says, okay, a lot of these AI systems are black boxes. You can't see them. Imagine a black box you can't see inside. So how do you use something you can't see inside of? Do you just blindly trust it? So it's interesting because within the last probably 5 or 6 years, explainable AI has grown, not just as an academic discipline, but now it's impacting how decisions are made.
Well, and it's that whole faith. Like, do we have faith in it or not? Yeah. Interesting. We could probably talk about that one for hours. Okay, Austin.
Yeah, it's tough to go behind y'all. Y'all really nailed it pretty well, in my opinion. I think, as with any relationship, communication is key. And due to the lack of privacy laws that we typically have here in the States, Europe has kept up a little bit better in some aspects. I to feel it important to maintain that level of transparency, right? I mean, the way I look at it, we try and go online to save time and chat with a person or a bot that will get us to the right person. And, you know, just something as simple as, hey, excuse us while we learn, and we're using this platform, is, you know, there's going to be a classification of people out there that don't desire to use this technology at all, right? And, you know, as we saw the IVR evolve over time, right? When you call up a company and you get the recording and press 1 for English, you know, whatever, you can't hit 0 anymore and get to a person. So I think that there's a need to also keep that fast path available to continue to build that relationship. And again, yes, transparency is communication is key in that transparency.
All right, John. Curious to
Yeah,
hear your
no,
thoughts.
yeah, definitely. So it's a balance. It's a balance, and I think Dr. Brent mentioned, you can kind of tell when you're talking to AI. So I think it's generally, even today, I think it's going to be acceptable for the most part that businesses use AI. But if your business is, you're selling a product, I don't think they mind that you use AI for accounting. They don't mind that you use AI for HR, for recruiting, for marketing. But I think when it comes down to the product or the service that you're selling, I think that's where there's going to be a differentiating factor between you and your competition. Are you using more AI than human? And I think that's going to be a deciding factor for a lot of consumers out there. Some people may prefer AI. Some people may prefer human, interacting with humans. So I think there's going to be a balance that needs to be struck. But at the end of the day, communicating with your consumers exactly what you're doing when they're interacting. If it's behind the scenes, I feel like they don't necessarily need to know how the sausage is made. I don't think you have to divulge all of that. But if they're interacting with AI and AI is involved in the decision making process, I think it's essential, and I think it's very ethical to explain that that's part of your business practice.
Awesome. Well said. And there's a common theme amongst all the answers. So I'm going to throw a monkey wrench into the whole thing. This is something that is you may have knowledge of, you may not, and if you don't, it's okay to pass on this question. But as we all know, AI is moving so quickly. It's there are a lot of deep fakes that are coming to the surface, and it's almost becoming difficult to tell what's real, what's fake. I know the quality of data, the chain of custody, and the integrity of the data is a huge concern. Blockchain, which is going to be, I think, in the end, is going to help authenticate what's real and what's fake. Those are some tools being used, but more so than that, the laws on a federal and also laws on a state level are really, really lacking. There was recently a call, I think it was late last year. Hey, we need to push the pause button on AI development. The genie's out of the bottle. You can't put it back. We're too far advanced for that now. So lawmakers are rushing to try to create some systems to help guide the whole AI process. In your opinion, what are some things that lawmakers can do to help AI developers ethically develop artificial intelligence? And I'm not sure who to call on, so I want to leave it as open-ended. Is there a first volunteer?
I'll jump in. I think in general, whether it be legislators or anyone, we need to remember who we are going into this. And I think for a lot of us, that means we're actually maybe for the first time going to have to articulate what's important, what are our values, and what is important here. From an ethics approach, I really I favor what's called virtue ethics, and that's where you have this short list of these are our values, and to use those ethics though is a skill. Like, okay, I can know my list of values, but how do I apply that into my day-to-day life? And here we've got to do this like whole learning process, like over one, what are our values? Let's remind ourselves of that we share as a society. And two, how do I now go about applying that? But it at least starts with, and this is what like my research in character formation applies here. Without a clear framework, you're pretty much stuck, right? So we're going to have to take a step back and say, what are our values that we really do care about and cherish in our society. Let's get clear about that. Let's agree on that. And then we can start legislating into those things. But as a character formation expert, I hate trying to regulate our way to something that should really be values from the inside out. Our founders when America started, and I know there's an international audience, but as this free society was coming up, and so we're trying to do away with this outside control, we have to have a people of virtue. And to have a people of virtue, it means we have to have a list of virtues. Benjamin Franklin did this. The ancient Greeks did it. Here's our virtues. We agree these are valuable. Now let's get good at applying that, and we're going to have to do that. It's going to be in our legislature, but we also have to do it in our institutions. Our universities that are teaching AI have to be saying these are our values that we need to get inside of us.
Yeah, I think thanks, Dr. Brent, for taking the political question. I was like, ooh, I don't know who wants to take that. I think anything becoming political, especially these days, it's a shame, because I would love for us as a nation, as even an international community, I would love for us to intrinsically be able to adhere to those core values that we have. But we know that where there's money to be made, a lot of times that comes second fiddle to making money, right? So yeah, I think maybe it was Dr. Corbin earlier that mentioned that we need to bring philosophers into the discussion. We need to bring sociologists into the conversation. I think that's absolutely it. I think the politicians are probably the last on the journey to regulating the use of AI, and that should probably go for everything. So maybe it's optimistic, but I'd like to see us be able to adhere to a set of values and use it ethically before we get the politicians involved. So when there is regulation that comes out, it's natural. We've already sort of figured it out as a community. So maybe that's wishful thinking. That's what I'm going to hope for.
No, I think that the two answers there summed it up so succinctly. I want to throw out a different question in the last few minutes we have. How can small businesses navigate the potential bias in IA? I think, Ava, you mentioned that briefly. And I guess if you could really simplify it for us, what is bias and why is it an ethical question? How is that? Why is that important?
Yeah, so that is such a great question, Tom. So I always come from my own lens when I help organizations and companies. Each organization have their own DNAs, and each organization have their own customers and their own goals. So as someone who actually working to help organization to improve processes, integrating AI, I often look at the benefits and the risk and the trade-off, and who am I serving and who the customers and clients are serving. So bias happens, we touch on it, right? Like we touch on diversities, we touch on diverse different data sets, like are these data clean data, and are there not really tampered with a lot of existing bias. When we have looking at our data set is important, and having that regular audits is also important, just to make sure that AI algorithms identify and address any other potential bias that exist. And to your point, organizations now should really even have that bias awareness training. We do that with diversity, equity, and inclusion. We should do that with AI system as well, so that employees can really learn how to identify and navigate around that. And last piece is making sure, like, the conversation that we have today is based on collaborations and expertise. And so that's where AI ethic is really coming into having that collaboration, more collaboration like this, more awareness and education.
Awesome. Dr. Corbin.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. I'll work on a definition of bias. So typically for AI, it's when you have preferential or some kind of discriminatory treatment of individuals or groups. So a really good example of this is there's AI that helps judges reach determinations of sentencing. This has been known to exhibit bias because there's actually bias embedded within the data. Think of the granting of loans to certain individuals. Some of these very primitive AI algorithms are biased in the sense that certain individuals, based upon certain sensitive traits, don't get loans. Some do. So bias in terms of definition is relatively straightforward. Luckily for most people, fairness AI is a whole field that's dedicated to this problem. So there's actually algorithms that sit on top of predictions that can let you correct for bias. Now there's different ways of doing it, but anyone who wants to implement a simple prediction algorithm, will this person buy a product from me or not? You can tailor the prediction so that it fits certain definitions of fairness. And this has been around for almost a decade. So fairness AI is a well-established methodology. There's a lot of algorithms out there. Now, again, it adds to the surplus of things to look through, but it's there. So, with a good partnership with somebody, you can definitely find something to help you achieve a bias-free workplace.
Awesome. And to wrap up the panel, we have Austin.
Thank you, Tom. Well stated again. It's really difficult to go after anybody in this group because y'all are on it. Definitely agree wholeheartedly in those aspects, and I think it really underscores, taking Ava and Dr. Corbin's feedback there and putting it together, along with some of the other feedback and some of the other questions and other groups you've had today. I don't feel that we are to a point yet with AI where we can just unleash it. It still needs that human interaction, that human review, right? You can't just like the emails. It's a great way to handle it. It's a great way to increase your productivity. However, you need to make sure that you review it before you send it. And doing something like that and not just giving blind trust to AI, generative AI specifically, I think that we'll see better results there. And there is also another underlying principle. I got to say it just because I called it out earlier in the panel: garbage in, garbage out. We got to look at what we're feeding the beast, right? And there are some things you shouldn't feed animals. So with that being said, we got to work on it. And then there's also another point to AI where it's fundamental in the design, where it's neural and it's transfer, right? So that kind of gets more into the technicalities of it. But all of this data can be transferred between something like an LLM, a large language model, almost instantaneously through a neural network by design. So just because you're able to weed it out on one doesn't mean that it's not going to get polluted again, which is another issue, right? I really hope that we can look to NIST in the USA, and NIST is the National Institutes for Standards and Technology. PCI DSS and some HIPAA is based off of those NIST 800 standards. Hopefully they can get on the ball and get some of that stuff updated.
Awesome. I got to say, I've been surprised by some of the answers. Hopefully this has put some fears that the audience has, maybe put that at ease. But want to thank everybody so much for your time and just freely giving the knowledge and just putting your thoughts out there for the world to see and hear. So thank you so much. We are getting ready to bring on two individuals. And as Tim, if you guys can step down from the stage, we're getting ready to bring on Michael Silvers. Let me get him on the stage here. Michael, welcome. One of my mentors, one of the owners of the LA Tribune Podcast Network, has worked with Tony Robbins and Harbecker and a whole bunch of others, but it is a true privilege to co-host this with Sandy and Michael Silvers. What an honor. And the next guest on is I have to bring on is Manoj. Welcome. Oh, you're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Hi, how are you?
Good. So I want to take 2 seconds where we have a couple minutes to spare.
Yeah.
And if you're watching this, take 2 seconds, share it to your socials. You will not want to miss this last segment of the AI Symposium with Sandy, Michael Silvers, and Manoj. We have talked extensively, and the amount of value you have added to the AI globally, the AI community, has been absolutely astounding. So glad you are with us. Sandy, do you want to kick things off, or Michael? Why don't we have Michael introduce himself first? I've been talking
There
the
you
whole
go.
time.
Hey, no, it's all good. It's so great to have this because it's really you're looking at cutting edge, but I love the piece that they talked about earlier. There's still the human edge. There's still the human piece of everything that we do, and there's a tendency of fearing what we don't know, and there's a tendency of, I mean, look, when we started, when Mary Glorfield took Tony Robbins around the world, there was even fear. Who is this guy? What is he doing? What is all this? Is this like a cult? That's we used to hear that all the time. Is this going to change our mindset or change the way we live? And is it going to take us out of work because they're trying to automate all these systems? And there's always these fears that come up. And it's great that you're doing this today because you've brought the human piece in. You've brought the piece that says we're still humans, we're doing this together, and it's great to have all of us together. And really with what we're doing at the Los Angeles Tribune, really enriching and enhancing and bringing the education always out there. And what you're doing today has been fantastic. It's great to be on with you guys. And Sandy, I'll turn it over to you.
All right. Well, I'm just so excited to be here, and I've been taking notes all afternoon, and I have learned so much. And it's kind of one of those things that when you learn about a certain thing and you don't understand all of the little intricacies, it just does seem so overwhelming. And so to second what you said, Michael, I'm hoping that the audience, some of their fears about using, even if it's just as simple as ChatGPT, using that in your business. I only mentioned it at the beginning of the program, and it's worth mentioning again that what just the AI technology has done for my podcast. And I know that we had one of the panelists earlier, what she was talking about, how it's helped her social media explode. It's helped my podcast explode. And so there's just so many little things that you can do with it. And just been a real honor to be here today. And I'll turn it back to you, Tom. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Manoj, I'm probably not going to do justice to your accomplishments, but I will try, and feel free to correct me and expound on what I'm going to say here. So you sit on 2 university boards, helping them curate AI university courses. You've literally written the book on cybersecurity that experts read, not someone like the rest of us would just pick up on a Sunday afternoon. You have impacted over 10 million people with AI software implementations globally, added over $500 million, with a B, over $500 million in software value, and you have 4 patents. You've implemented some corporate governance. You've handled the interaction of writing AI code with 3D inserts and integrating the robotics with the software. And I'm sure there's more that I'm missing. Would you kind of go into any gaps I'm leaving out here?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. At the basic level, we have used AI to help patients get better, relieve their joint pains, help doctors provide better care to their patients. In the education space, we have helped students learn in a more personalized manner. We have helped university students not drop out of their university degree programs, because 30% of the students drop out currently in the US in the first 2 years. There has been a lot of exciting projects that I have been lucky to be part of. For me, it's like a hobby. It's like fun, taking difficult problems and using these powerful technologies to solve those problems. And in effect, like sort of impact millions of lives, because that's what's exciting about technology. Like you do your work on your computer, and then you make it available to millions of people around the world, and they get impacted by your work. So that's the exciting part for me.
You mentioned, I'm going to jump in. You mentioned healthcare, which I had been in for a long time, and there always was the fear of the patients that we're removing them from the sequence. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because that comes up all the time as we're moving down this road?
See, what happens is, like, any commercial business, and healthcare specifically in the US is a commercial business. And whenever your objectives are more profits, you look for efficiencies in the system. And the interaction between a patient and a doctor, it cannot be classified as a task that you have to get done. There's a lot of relationship building. There's a lot of listening involved, and that has been sort of taken out of this whole process. And that's the reason why patients feel that they are marginalized, they are not being taken into account, and all that. But the good part is, as these technologies start to get adopted, so I'll give you a statistic, and this is coming from a real conversation I had with a neurosurgeon. He's a very accomplished neurosurgeon, and he told me, on average, 80% of the time spent by doctors or surgeons is administrative tasks, entering data into their computer systems or what have you. And only 20% of their time is actually spent with the patients. So now you can imagine if we implement technologies like AI, which can sort of take away all that drudgery of work, the mundane, repetitive work that nobody wants to do. And this is not just in healthcare, this is in all our lives as well. And we offload that to the machine, and we say, hey, doctor, now you have 80% more time in your week to spend with patients and listen to their problems, and not, and give them personalized advice. That will shift the focus to the patient. And so that will happen across the board. It is already happening at a smaller scale, but think about where we were in 1995 when the internet came along, and nobody knew what a website is, nobody knew what email is. People were happy with their white pages and yellow pages. And in like 2 or 3 years, everything changed. So that's where we are with AI as well. And in the next few years, things will look very different.
So I'd like to ask you a question to kind of tag on to what you were just talking about, Manoj. So I heard on a podcast, it was, I mentioned this earlier, it was with Sam Altman, who's the founder of ChatGPT. He was talking to Joe Rogan, and they were talking about how in this one instance, a man didn't get a good answer from the veterinary, but had a blood test of his dog. He just thought he was going to have to put the dog down, put it into, I'm making a really long story short, put it into ChatGPT, got a diagnosis, went back to the vet. The dog is alive. So you get where I'm going with this. Most doctors, because of all the administrative things, but either that, they've got to see 25 patients a day, and you've got just a couple of minutes with them, and they're just they're practicing medicine, right? You practice law, you practice medicine, right? It's so how do you see artificial intelligence really helping doctors and make diagnosis quicker and more accurate diagnosis? Or this is your blood test, this is what you really need, instead of taking this pill.
Yeah. See, it comes down to, again, efficiency and what is going on and what is the state of a mind of a physician or a veterinarian or anybody who's got lots of work to do in their day, right? So as humans, no matter what, like on the day where my calendar is booked, I'm stressed from when the time I wake up, because I have to go through all these meetings and make sure that everything gets done. So, but if I had an assistant with me helping me take notes, or just like giving me advice, a good analogy will be professional golf players. They have a caddy with them, not just to carry their stuff, but to advise them and say, hey, this is how you should play a shot, and if you take this angle, it'll be good. So imagine having that buddy with you all the time, which does not get tired, which does not respond to like emotional triggers during our day, which does not have a fight with their spouse, which does not get upset when somebody cuts them off in traffic. And they are able to give us objective advice and say, what, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? And that gives gives us a chance to get back into our state, objective state of mind and say, hey, I didn't consider that. Because the human mind is as powerful as it is still quite primitive in that we just focus on very limited sort of point of view that is right in front of us. And if on one particular day I'm emotionally triggered, half of my mind is trying to solve that problem, and it could be my personal problem, and half of it is focused on my professional responsibility. So with AI, we can really minimize that. We can really bring back our judgment. One quick experiment, I always share this with people. If you want to experience something like this and see what I'm talking about, we face a lot of difficult challenges in our day-to-day life. Let's say you want to have a difficult conversation, or you want to convince your kid to clean their room or whatever. Sometimes we say, I'm not able to communicate, I'm not able to connect, I'm not able to get have this difficult conversation with somebody. So you can think about, go to ChatGPT, and what my favorite thing to do is, I say to ChatGPT, now you are Socrates, okay? You are the father of philosophy. And I am dealing with this situation where I have to get my son to clean his room, and I'm not able to convince him. So advise me as Socrates, I'm a dad, advise me, how will you deal with this? And then it comes up with, Socratic questioning for me for that situation. And now it puts me in the right state of mind and say, hey, did I explain the importance of cleanliness to my son? Did I give him all the instructions how to clean his room? Did I put some incentives on the table for him to clean the room? These are all the things we forget, because being a parent, I'm like, I assume, like, I say something to my son and he'll obey it. That's not the case. That doesn't work in human interactions. So now you can see, like, just using that in your day-to-day life, how quickly AI can become such a powerful force to help you navigate these complexities.
I know the previous panels this afternoon, we've talked about we had one panelist, Jeff. He said, AI has literally saved my marriage. But it's funny how more and more people are realizing that they can turn and use generative AI language as a tool, as a way to provide guidance on relationships. But I want to shift the focus a little bit on, you mentioned like we're still like the 1995 era of AI, and we have that much forward progression to go. And I know when we spoke a few weeks ago, there is coming in the very near future a hockey stick effect. When you have mass adoption, the fear goes down, the acceptance goes up, and people start accepting AI is here, and I'm gonna start using it. So when do you think, and what is it going to take for the hockey stick to kind of hit when we hit that bell curve?
See, the thing about technological revolutions is there is no particular day when we can say, okay, on this day hockey stick is happening. We are in it right now. We just don't know it. I mean, we don't notice it, right? The amount of money that has gone into AI, the amount of conversations we are having about AI has skyrocketed, even though AI has been in our life for the last 20 years, right? So when we talk about hockey stick growth, pick the richest person on the planet, like, top 3 or 4 or 5, pick Elon Musk, pick Mark Zuckerberg, pick Jeff Bezos, put their net worth on a graph, and if that is not a hockey stick, then I don't know what that is, because every dollar that they earned, these guys whose name I use, is attributed to AI. That's it. So we are already in that hockey stick growth. Now, what is happening is the common person, the non-technical person, people with, maybe no money to spend on this technology, or, small business owners, now they are in the game. Now they can use AI to build, large companies. So that is the next phase of the hockey stick growth, when everybody will start adopting it and will produce value from it.
One thing that you hear, because there is that you've done what you've done today has been great because it's really taken away a lot of that fear, right? A lot of and even with the entrepreneur world, there's always the entrepreneur world is up and down. When you've got to jump in, you've got to just do it. Um, and we have a lot of entrepreneurs that listen to these calls. Can you just talk a little bit about that? I'm starting a business, whatever business I'm in. How is AI going to make my life easier? And you talked about, the strategies, and you talked about we can automate, but just from a mindset, how does that make it easier for the entrepreneur to jump in nowadays?
Yeah, it's funny. I was running a mastermind today, and I actually talked about exactly the same thing. So, in a small business, if you're starting a business or if you have a small business, because I bring my experience from large corporations, some of the largest companies in the world, and also startups which are like just starting from day one. The biggest factor in success of a company is your people, your team. People who are believing in your mission and they're helping you move this thing forward. Right now, the problem is that as a small business owner, salaries are the biggest line item on the expense, and in many cases we don't, in many cases people don't even have the money to hire the right people. So now imagine you are able to hire very educated employees. So let's say you need a marketing professional, you need a sales professional, you need somebody to help you with managing your money, accounting, and you are able to find a Harvard educated PhD for $25 a month. Right now, you build a team of these people. You can hire the best accountant, Harvard educated accountant. You can hire the best marketer, hire the best salesperson. And these are the opportunities that are available as an entrepreneur to you, to hire these employees who will give you objective feedback, give you guidance, give you tactical steps on what to do, how to do it. And a very cool another application of this is, I have a team of like 4 or 5 executives, and we make decisions about our next steps. So many of these meetings we started having some conflicts around, okay, should we do it this way or should we do it that way? So what we did was we created avatars, AI avatars of ourselves. We uploaded our personality into these AIs, and we said, okay, let's bring them into our board meetings and then have them advise us on our decision making. So it really removed all the egocentric, like all the emotional side of decision making. And AI was able to say to us, if this is what you are looking for as an outcome, this is the right decision to make. And like it just really truly shows the power that we have at our hands, right? So if you can tap into that, like you can get advice from, I don't know, Tony Robbins, let's say. If Tony Robbins is on your board,
Mm-hmm.
can you imagine how it will transform your company?
Mm-hmm. Got it. Yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you. What a great answer.
So I've been sitting here thinking, because had so much information today. And one of the things I keep going back to is, because you've said it and a couple other people said it, that we're kind of like in 1995 where we were with the internet. And that just blows my mind, because I won't forget the day I went to visit my mom and dad. And my father was always on the cutting edge of, he was a hospital administrator, but he loved technology. And I remember him demonstrating, and it was one of the first ones that came out. It was before AOL. It was another internet in a box type of thing. And he plugged it into the phone line, and you're sitting there and you're like, and he's like, yeah, but you can search it. I'm like, but why? Like, what? Like, it just, because you didn't know what you didn't know. And now here we are. I've got a computer in my hand that is attached to my hip. What more is there to come with AI technology? I just can't see, right? Because I don't know what I don't know. What more is there to come?
So let me ask you, like, we all, seems like we all involved in businesses and we all trying to accomplish things, right? So and let's just play a quick game. What is your end goal? Let's say you have all your dreams fulfilled. What does that life look like for you?
Well, for me, it doesn't involve sitting in front of a computer for 4 hours.
Okay, there you go. Okay, so let's assume you'll be having the greatest time of your life with the right kind of people around you at the right time, right? Typically, what we say is that we will do that either when we retire or we win a lottery, in general parlance, right? So, and that we are talking sitting in a first world country, being privileged in working in like really rewarding careers, jobs, businesses. Think about 90% or 99% of the population of this planet who have, who are not even like, they struggle for basic necessities, right?
Right.
Now, the world we are going towards, and let's look back at the long term, very long term view of human evolution. When we were in the caves, our first priority was where do we get food from, right? And until about maybe 1900s, early 1900s, that was the major concern on our mind all the time. And most people spent their entire life working for food. But as industrialization happened, we got food available to us. We had even day off, like we had weekends. We didn't have to like walk miles and miles to get water. All these technological advancements improved human life, and it became comfortable. But as we know, as we just said, we are still working to get even more comfortable. We don't want to be in front of screens. Our end goal is to enjoy our life. So if we win a lottery, we will be able to enjoy our life tomorrow. AI is that lottery. Now, how that lottery manifests itself for nations, for our communities, for ourselves, that is to be seen. But what I can tell you with certainty is cost of living will drastically come down to almost zero. You will be able to buy anything that you desire to buy, because the cost of manufacturing those goods will come drastically down, and you won't have to like earn that much or work that much to be able to enjoy a high a living standard. So when you ask me what is to come, it's not about what gadgets will be there or what technologies will be there. Think about what kind of quality of life that we all desire. That's what's coming, and everything else is just a means to get to that end.
Well, that sounds delightful to me. So thank you.
That what you said is make my neurons just fire on all different cylinders here. As we've seen technology, and I mean talk about just metal technology, evolution of the metal goods and machinery, and as technology, not AI technology, evolve over a long period of time, there seems to be an increasingly distance between the have and have nots.
Mm-hmm.
So with the cost of goods coming down, is that really going to radically change, or will it bring the have and have nots closer, or do you think it will further divide the have and have nots? I mean, it just makes me wonder. You took the long-term view, maybe kind of step back and take that thought process, that thought there.
See, I believe in the goodness of humanity. I believe we are not greedy people. Um, you know, so, but the thing is, like, there are very limited resources available today for most people. So we struggle to like say, okay, how much do I want for myself, and the rest, is distributed. But when there is abundance, human nature is highly unpredictable. Okay, so how people will behave in this new society, in this new paradigm, nobody can tell. But I really hope that we recognize the abundance that we have created, and we are able to share that without any prejudice, without any like greed or what have you. This is the great unknown that nobody knows, how things will unfold. And that's why a lot of people are concerned, are we ready for that kind of society? What will happen? But as an optimist, I believe it'll turn out just fine.
Fantastic. So for you, because you didn't really go into what your company does, what are you doing today to influence, or are you doing anything today to influence some of the things that are these big decisions that are being made?
Yeah, I mean, so we are working with companies who want to get ahead in the curve. They want to implement technology. They want to leverage AI beyond what the basic things are going on. People are using ChatGPT to write social posts and articles. That's all great, but there's much more power in AI. ChatGPT itself is just one small manifestation of AI. So what we are doing is we are again, as I said, like, we are going into industries like plumbing. So we are helping them become more efficient, provide better customer experience, fix problems faster. We are going into roofing companies. Again, with roofing, they are using drones to figure out what is the area of their roof and what the weather is going to be like, so that when they actually want to serve a customer, they can schedule it on the right day. All these things which used to take a lot of mental power and energy and stress to get things done can now be just offloaded to AI and say, okay, you figure it out. I'm just interested in fixing the plumbing leak. I'm just interested in making this roof beautiful. The rest you can figure out. So and we are saving, like, in many cases, millions and millions and millions of dollars for these companies, because they used to spend hours and hours and hours and employ a large number of people to get very small things done. But now those people can be focused on more creative work, more strategic work, more talking to clients, building those relationships. So that has been most satisfying part of what we do.
Love it.
And with everything that you've created and really being in the world you're in, and it would be 10 years from today, what do you think the legacy that you're starting to leave would look like?
Well, the legacy is, we have, so for example, some of our clients, they have a good business. They want to 10x it in the next 5 years or so. Now, 10xing a business is not something that, some people will just wake up and say, okay, that's my goal. Because most people will just say it's impossible. But now with these kind of technologies, it is possible. So we are helping them, fulfill those dreams. Just like Sandy, you mentioned, we all have dreams and really big visions for our lives. We just don't know how to get there, or we are getting there day by day. But once we put steroids on that, like, if you get closer to that goal faster, then those people who are successful, they make an impact on their audience or people they are serving. So we are working with some world class musician whose passion it is to teach music, and now they are teaching probably 100,000 to 200,000 students across the world. If they are able to teach 2 million students across the world, that will be my impacting one business, but in fact, indirectly impacting like 2 million people, right? So that's the legacy that I really focus on.
Thank you. That was great.
That is such a good question, Michael. That's phenomenal. That's awesome. Something I read about a couple months ago, and I think it's on the horizon, and that is the emergence of super artificial intelligence. And if I remember this correctly, SAI is that inflection point in which artificial intelligence becomes Skynet, right? It becomes smarter than human intelligence. Can you? You're not. It seems like you've heard this term thrown around. Is that a new term? Is that something that is expected? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, it has been, many people have called it like AGI, super intelligence. A number of people use different terminology, but basically what it is, as human mind, like, we are intellectual, we are emotional, beings, we look at a problem and then we try to find a solution to that problem. So let's take cure for cancer, let's say. Cancer kills so many people, and we've been trying to find a cure, like a vaccine or something along those lines, for like 6 decades or so, right? Now, say, Einstein had an IQ of like 170, but machines today have an IQ of 1,000. So if we give this problem to a machine to solve, the expectation is that they're not going to take 60 decades or 6 decades to solve this problem. They'll be probably able to solve this problem in 5 years. Now, if you extrapolate that, you can say, okay, even looking at the world around us and finding a problem to solve is not something that our human mind is capable of. We only solve the problems which are too big and they are visible to us, and they start bothering us so much that we have to do something about it. Now, let's say we have an AI which observes the world and says, hey, you don't even notice this problem where, like you have a traffic problem in your city, and it can be optimized using this this solution. So now you can see, like, the AI itself is creating new solutions on its own, and it can start to, like, sort of generate its own algorithms and all of that. So that now gives rise to this super intelligent artificial intelligence that can manage itself. And some people are quite worried and scared about it, and they say, oh, that means it becomes conscious and everything. So I have been meditating for like 12-14 years, so I know a lot about human mind and human consciousness. So to that, I always respond, like, when people say, I'm afraid that AI will become conscious, I ask them, do you know what being conscious means? Because as humans, we don't know what consciousness is, and we start to get scared about how machines will become conscious. So all it is just trying to figure out these problems and whether machines can autonomously find these problems and solve it for us. So that's, in my mind, in my opinion, that's super intelligence.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you. Thank you so much, because one thing you did today, and thank you for being on the show today, is you've made it very succinct, but because of that optimist side, and it's more than that, you really took the AI piece and you just made people feel comfortable. You also said to them, it is part of your world. It is here. It's been here a long time, and we're still here, right? You're just all starting to find out about it. And I think that was a brilliant piece. And talking about your legacy too, that's what people always want to know. What does that really mean? And the one thing you said again is you didn't talk about yourself. You talked about how you're going to affect other people, how you're going to help other businesses. And that's the of service model. That's the truly, I'm leaving my legacy here because I'm going to be of service. So any last points you'd like to make before we let you go? And thank you so much for being on the show today.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you so much for great questions. I mean, I will just say, this is the biggest wealth building opportunity forever. Like, not even. So even if you combine the wealth created by the internet and the smartphone, AI is going to, like, just blow past that, like, within a couple of years. So please don't give in to the fear. Don't give in to the misinformation. This is going to build not just your life, but multiple generations to come. So the sooner you embrace this technology, sooner you understand it, the sooner it'll start benefiting you. So I just ask people to really open up their mind and embrace it and learn, because it's going to be transformational for them.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And they give you a big round of applause. There's this huge applause coming from everybody out there because of what you brought today. Tom?
Yeah. No, Manoj, thank you so much. With that, we are going to wrap up the show. I'll definitely be reaching back out to you here in a few weeks. So, Manoj, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks.
Well, I have to say that we are at the end of the symposium. I do want to encourage everybody. I just put up a QR code in the top right-hand corner of the screen. The goal of this symposium, and we're going to have 3 more symposiums this year, is to, one, educate the general population and the business community at large. And the second is to create a community. And we do plan on putting out once a month, maybe twice a month, a newsletter or an AI update as new technology, as AI technology evolves. It's going to be important to stay abreast of the changes so you don't get left behind. And it is something we will be creating that community around a lot or many of these speakers you heard from today. And we are planning on the next symposium mid to late June. So definitely want to engage with us, stay up to date with things. We'd love to hear your comments, any questions that you might have. Please reach out to us. Thank you so much, Manoj. Appreciate it. Sandy, thank you so much for your time. Michael, thank you again for popping in and being here as well.
Yeah, it's been great. It's a great day because you took that to the next level and you really let people know that there's something bigger out here to do. And for all of you, this is the kind of thing that you make connection, you make a contact, you're part of a community. You're not out there alone. You're doing this because it's coming, it's here, it is the way it is. We even have that within podcasters and right, Sandy, there's this fear that this is going to take over everything. And remember, there is that human touch and that human point. And trust me, there'll be the part that will continue that. And there will be some that are AI. And that's part of where we're going. So you have to sort of let go of that. You have to just realize, I'm going to get on the train. I'm going to be on part of it. Look, we all jumped onto computers, like Sandy was saying, and there was a lot of fear around everybody. I know, what is this? And remember the first Macintoshes in college in I think my first one was 85 or 86. And that, I had the Radio Shack too, but we all do it and we adopted it, and it took us time. And look what happened in the microwave industry. Nobody had microwaves, and the whole world had microwaves within just a couple of years. Right. It's here, it's coming. So it's about learning and being part of it. You don't have to know it, but you're going to surround yourself with people who do. You get to know, like, and trust them, and that will move you forward anytime that really this whole technology will be part of your life now. So just know that, and let's move forward. Tom, great show today. Sandy, you two were just awesome.
Yeah, thank you, Tom. Appreciate it. Thank you, Michael.
I want to leave the audience with two final thoughts. One is text LA Pod to 26786 if you're interested in joining the LA Tribune Podcast Network. They are one of the sponsors of the event, and I'll put that up right there. And then that's LAPOD to 26786. The second sponsor we have is mymentorhq.co. If you have also same text, MMHQ to 26786, that's Mary HQ to 26786. Again, thank you both. Appreciate it so much, and we'll see you at the next symposium.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.